Yes, good evening, good evening, good evening, wherever you are. It is the Jamaica Mix, and today we have a fair amount of things we want to cover. Just want to, take the time to say thanks, first of all, to our athletes who have performed with distinction at the most recently completed World Championships in Tokyo. And of course, we came away with 10 medals, some one gold, six silver, and if my arithmetic is correct, another three bronze medals. And as a friend of mine always say, we don't put on a medal there, so we have to say, we have to show our appreciation to the athletes. So all of this against the background of where we have come from in terms of Jamaica's track and field over the last 70, what is it now, 73 years. And we think we're going to spend a little time talking about that, especially with the queen of track and field from a Jamaica and global standpoint is concerned, Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce, who has basically made our final bow at the Tokyo Games. Other thing we want to look at is this business of the police and the body camera issues. Now, that has been an ongoing conversation, um, certainly from my perspective with the police and their extrajudicial activities. It is now clear that that's what it has been. And we see now where the police high command is now bowing under the public pressure. And I would like to take ownership because I too have been, you know, hammering this issue for the better part of the last year and a half. Also wanna just focus some attention on the issue in Montego Bay with the building of the children's hospital. We got news sometime last week where the workers went on strike. The Chinese workers, Jamaicans, a combination of some 250 people working on this site, building a 200-bed children's hospital in Montego Bay. Of course, we're gonna talk a little bit about that and about the whole healthcare sector. And of course, it wouldn't be Jamaica Mix if we don't take a little touch on the politics, because we are now in a new administrative term of government in Jamaica, where the Jamaica Labour Party, and congratulations to them, having won a third consecutive term of governing the island. If you follow me, you know, me's a man, I mean, I have no loyalty to no political side. There was a time in my young days when you follow PNP, because that's how me did go to school and all of that. But as you get older, it becomes more Jamaica, not politics, not no political side. Of course, yeah, for different reasons, you have your own political preferences, and we talk about them, but always in the context of Jamaica, how we as a country benefits. So Mr. Holness is now again the leader of the government, and he has picked a cabinet where almost every one of the 32, the 34 MPs that he has retained have some ministerial position, and we want to talk about that as well. Um, they but first and foremost, let's kick the ball off with this police issue in Jamaica. Now, very recently, we saw a, a news article coming out of the Gleaner Company, and again, during the political silly season, I see plenty of people criticizing the Gleaner, that them bias and why them support the PNP. You know, it's ironic because when the PNP in power, the PNP basically said the same position that the Gleaner support the Labour Party. So, you know, a day in the life of politics in Jamaica. But the Gleaner is one of the oldest newspaper houses in the Caribbean archipelago, and the Gleaner now currently owns the RJR communications. So as a conglomerate, again, one of the oldest papers in the region, more than 150 or thereabouts years in operation. And it take a special kind of entity to rack up them kind of numbers in terms of their existence. And so, you know, we may have expressed our criticism that the Gleaner or the media fraternity has not been as upfront as them should be in terms of how they report on issues. But again, we're not here to hammer that. What we're looking at is that they have been reporting on this business of how the police have been executing their responsibilities. Let me just welcome Opal Morris Powell, who jump off right away. Every single police officer should be equipped with body-worn cameras. Totally despicable what is happening to that young man. We're going to talk about that thing. And again, just want to say good evening, Opal, and wherever you are joining us, you're on Facebook, you're on YouTube. Just want to say welcome. Welcome to the program. You know, this is where we always try to split the hairs when it comes to things. Now, what is Opal and myself talking about here? Body camera. What is a body camera? Body camera is a device that the police, we've seen it in international jurisdictions where police going out on duty have a device that is connected onto them, basically the front of them bulletproof vest, which is a camera device which captures the activity, it records everything what them do. Once you put it on, you're supposed to turn it on, right? And what that does is that it captures video footage of everything that the police does in the course of their daily activity. So, you know, transpose that into a Jamaican environment where we have been told, now let me make it clear, the police in Jamaica picks up the lion's share, the whole security apparatus or security, national security ministry in Jamaica picks up some 30% of the country's budget, right? Errol Salke, want to welcome you as well. People says that I'm lying when I say that Horace Strong does not support the wearing of body cameras. We're gonna touch on all of this, right? Because the body camera thing, first of all, we're talking about the police. So they get a whole heap of money. It's the highest amount of money that comes from the tax-paying public that goes to the security ministry and by extension, police and soldier. When we have soldier out on the road, almost like them a police on an everyday basis, because as one person said to me the other day, it looked like the Jamaican government are trying to militarize the Jamaican state. In other words, you put all of the former police commissioner was an army man and all kind of thing, and of all kind of ex-army officers all over the place in different government departments where they thing, right? They are occupying senior positions. And you know, military people only do one thing: they follow orders, right? Whether it's a bad or a good order, them not really make the distinction. To them, the person who have the authority to give an order never gives a bad order. And you know, just if you process that, it gives you an idea of how far off the reservation a lot of these guys can find themselves. Anyway, So the government have a whole heap of money to spend with police, right? Bag of money, piss pot load of money. And so the police have some of the most sophisticated equipment, tracking devices, everything. In fact, the police now can tell you, them almost, if you even think about do something, them can't find you, right? I mean, and that is an exaggeration to a large extent, yes. But the reality is that the government has been spending a lot of money to, upgrade the police force and we needed that. There is no question about that. Let me make that clear, because sometimes man feels why I may fight against police. I can't afford to do that. I have family member in a police. Some of my best friends are police officers. But our reality is that since the beginning of this year, the Jamaica police have killed more than 230 Jamaicans, and 99% of those persons killed by the police are young men. Now, on a regular basis, prior to 2025, the police kill rate in Jamaica was about 150 to 180 Jamaicans killed by the police on an annual basis. At the rate that the police has been involved in this kind of activity, it tells us that we are looking easily at the police killing some 300 Jamaican men by the end of this year. This puts us in a position where, with the exception of countries like Honduras, Venezuela, Mexico, I think there's one of these Filipino countries, Jamaica have one of the highest police kill rate for any country in the world, right? We kill at a rate of about 15. The kill rate is about 15 times the rate of countries like the United States, which have a race problem in terms of how police and people of color operate within the American jurisdiction. And Jamaica is way ahead of that. Now, the argument is that the police is effectively identifying, targeting, and removing violence producers, right? And the violence producers argument stems from the fact that Jamaica has been, and for the better part of the last 35 years, been realizing murder rates of upwards of 1,000 to 1,300 murders per year. For a country with a small population, 2.9 million Jamaicans live in Jamaica. What we are doing, we have killed over 45,000. Murderers have killed over 45,000 Jamaicans over that 35-year period. So there's a major problem. The answer seems to have been, and this is one that was announced by the Prime Minister at the beginning of this year, where and he never missed any opportunity to load this up around the country on political platforms everywhere. He basically said, tell the bad man them, so boy, you're gonna meet Jamaica. If you take on the police, you're gonna meet Jamaica. The problem is that the police read this as a blank check, if you will, to then engage young men. There are some people who say that the police are targeting these guys, so they have the kind of monitoring devices where they basically monitor people through their phones, whatever it is, TikTok, whatever. And once they know where X person is, them go for them. The problem is them go to Panarade And in the course of the execution of this raid, they go in a yard and then buck up 5 people. They want 2 of them in the 5 that are people who they have targeted. But instead of carrying the 5 people, them bomb brush all 5 of them. And then they report the thing as a confrontation with the police. There is a lot of video evidence that have now started to surface, unbeknownst to the police, where people are refuting the claims of the police that these engagements were actually engagements, instances where gunmen actually engaged the police and the police in defense returning fire. The bottom line is that the body count is high. And because of the height of these body count, the public, myself included, we've been pushing back. Because every police now, based on pronouncements from the government or the police high command, would have been equipped with these body cameras. We learned very recently that I think the police commissioner, or from the commissioner's office, that the cameras are not activated. And in an environment where the police is literally executing members of the population at the rate that they are, one would think that the best form of verification, if you will, would be the use of these cameras. So if you are on patrol, somebody open fire against the patrol, your camera picks up this and records the incident. So when the police responds, there is a legitimate basis for the engagement. But that has not been the case. We have seen where the INDICOM, this oversight body, have now this come out swinging prodigiously at the police that the instances of these reports are far too high, right, for them not to be providing the body camera footage of the incidents in question. Now, a lot of Jamaicans will tell you that when the murder numbers started to fall, a lot of Jamaicans, and very few, myself included, would be perturbed that the police are get rid of the murder of them out of the thing. The problem with police killing is that it is no different than, you know, the people and civilian out on the street are killing off one another, because it becomes a habit, right? And once people feel that they can get away with that kind of behavior or activity, it emboldens them to do it more. And my sense is that against the background of where we're coming from with trying to address this murder problem, a lot of these police have become a lot quicker on the trigger. And we see the case very recently of this young man who the police went to his home. My understanding is that they actually went to the wrong house. The young man came out of the house with him hands up in the air, and Babsi Siko, the man, is shot by the police and killed. But the police initially reported this, that there was an engagement. The man pulled a firearm after the police and they killed him. But video footage surfaced that refutes that argument, that basically says, no go so, right? Because the man came out of the house and he opened the door, letting the police put up him 2 hands. And the next thing we know, the man is dead. There was a case in Nannyville about a little over a week ago, where the police again go to somebody's house, and before you know it, the young man in him house with his mother and his baby and whatever. And the next thing, the man is dead. And the police is claiming that the man pulled a gun after them. Am I saying that people are out there, that there aren't people out there who are stupid enough to say heavily armed police and will pull a firearm after them? No, I'm not saying that. But I find it very difficult to believe that in every single instance, because again, people, no matter how stupid you is, if a police out there and the police is heavily armed, you can't carry a slingshot go to a gunfight. You know? You can't take up a little full weapon and put, you know, you open fire upon police who have some of the most modern shooting equipment that is known to Jamaicans. There was a time in Jamaica, man, when I said the criminal are better armed than the police. As I say, Errol Walters making a point here that sadly the commissioner is sounding like a dictator. Look at the issue with the police association head. That is another instance where we're going to touch that and that. Thank you for bringing that up, Errol. But again, what has happened is that the government of the day is basically militarizing the police, right? I am not going to say to Jamaicans or anybody anywhere who's following this stream that there aren't criminals being killed by the police. Far from that. The problem, though, is that the role of the police, right, is to protect, right, and serve the people of Jamaica, to act as the foundation of our justice system. The foundation, meaning it begins with the police. So somebody commits a crime or somebody reports a crime, the job of the police is to go and investigate that crime, right? Find the perpetrator, right? Bring them into the police station, arrest and charge them for whatever the activity is. If it's an issue of gun crime, the job can't be that every time the police come across somebody with a firearm, what the police end up with is a body. That is thing. Because the job is to find the perpetrators who are bringing in these weapons. So if you find a man with, like the other day, there was a case in Mandeville where this guy have this interchangeable rifle, right? Not every rifle you can convert it so it can fire different caliber bullets. And in Jamaica, you can't buy a rifle at a gun shop. There is no way you can do that. If you're buying a rifle, if you're going to shoot bird, you can buy a bird gun, right? That's what you call a shotgun for thing. But the ramifications you have to go through to thing is almost, you better have to ask them to pull out your 32 teeth and put them in back. That is how egregious the process is for owning a gun. So, and no little common boy can't import a gun, smuggle a gun through the wharf. No common boy. Me, I tell you that can't happen, right? No little common boy. Francis Anselm, welcome wherever you are. I think you're tuning in on YouTube. So no common boy can bring in guns. So my thing would be that we increase the investigative capabilities of the police so them can find these importers of these guns and bring them to justice. Because let me tell you, in one instance, them find 230 odd gun on a Tivoli Wharf, right? Whole heap of high power. Well, every gun is a high power weapon, but we're talking about gun that can fire a whole heap of bullet. AR-15, M16 rifle, AK-47. It's almost as if somebody a plan a war, because 200 gun in a Jamaica one time in a one car. This is not a legal shipment, in a illegal. And remember, according to the police, when you find a when you find a shipment like that, invariably that represents maybe 10-20% of what is being imported into the country on a regular basis. So 80% of shipments like those gone, and the police have no idea, right? So the problem of guns coming into the country is a significant problem, but you never hear that them hold on for one of the persons who are bringing these guns, right? Because a gun thing an expensive thing. If you want to buy a gun on the road, it will cost you a good 600,000 Jamaica dollar to buy a little 9mm gun. May I tell you, based on my feedback from the man who run the thing. To buy a rifle, millions of dollars. AR-15, AK, millions of dollars. So no little common boy can bring in gun come to Jamaica. Somebody make a piss pot load of money bringing in guns and ammunition into the country. And with all of this sophistry that the police now operate with, one of the simple things you would have figured is they would be applying that sophistry to investigating the sources of these guns. Or if you catch a man on the road with a big gun, you don't need to obliterate him. We need to find out where you get the gun from, right? One wonders if it's a case where the police are protect whomever it is them are protect. So when you catch a man with a gun, whoops, you just lick him. So him no talking, no gun. And the source of the gun is being protected. And we have to ask these questions because, listen, Jamaica is now easily one of the most corrupt countries in the world. I mean, I put my mouth on ground and talk. I tell you that because that's a fact, right? From the top to the bottom, right? Corruption. You want to get a birth certificate, you want your car pass, corruption. Your car up on the road and on a license and thing, corruption. Speed, police pull you over if you're speeding, let have something, left or right, corruption. Politician, I make a piece part load of money because them, you know, whoever it is back them in an election, them I look after them. Look how what happened with the bus thing the other day. 1.6 billion for buy some bus where 80% engine worn, 20-year-old bus. And nobody no speak about that. In fact, you know, so corruption. So by extension, I'm developing this to say the people who in the gunman business is not no little common boy. They might have something a common boy a fire gun. But the question is where them get the gun from. And you know, all of it, well, certainly the police has killed 230 young Jamaican men since the beginning of the year. Not one of them have they produced video evidence to support the argument that these people engaged the police in a shootout. But the average Jamaican buy it because we have become so punch drunk by the murdering thing, right? The volume, the rate of murders in the country, that we feel that this is a solution to that problem. The problem that I have with that kind of thinking is that like most things in terms of criminality, once it becomes habitual, once the perpetrator is able to get away with it, it becomes habitual. So by extension, the police having January and February all the way down, they've been killing all of these young fellows. And nobody now say nothing because people happy. Oh yes, look how the murder rate dropped. And there is merit to the argument that some of the people that never kill are murderer. I mean, disagree with that, you know, right? I mean, disagree that some of them you really can't, it don't make no sense you carry them through the system. Some people, unfortunately, are irredeemable in terms of their behaviors. However, the police cannot be judge, jury, and executioner. If that is the case, abandon the court system, abolish the court system, right? If we don't see the necessity that when a man catch a man with a gun, you know, all right, so you're gonna shoot him, you don't have to kill him. Shoot him in the foot like, thing, but we can bring him in so we can question him, carry him before the court, and we are going to use the court system to think. If this is what the police is pushing back against, abolish the justice ministry, abolish the whole security apparatus, the court system. We don't need the courts then, because the police is the judge and the jury, and they are the executioners. So you come in contact with the police, and that's it. As the Prime Minister, in his use his own words, meet your maker. Those are his words, you know. If you confront the police with any kind of violence, you are going to meet your maker. Because them did make a comment about you're going to either face the judge or you're going to meet your maker. But the police seem to have forgotten about the judge part. So they become the judge, the juror, and the executioner. And so we have had this proliferation of police killing in Jamaica for the better part of the year. And the police commissioner, who obviously take him instructions from the Minister of Defense, who is the Prime Minister, right, is executing the orders that he has been given. And as one person, I think it was Errol who said, the dictatorial tendencies. Now, let me say this, you know, because I don't want anybody out there thinking that I'm against the police, you know, getting rid of the criminal elements, because my thinking is far from that. What I definitely will never subscribe to is that the police play all the roles, because that is not how a democratic free society operates. A democratic society, free societies, are societies that are bounded by laws. And so the application of those laws becomes important, right? That we follow the rule of the principles by which the law operates. And that is that the role of the police is to protect the citizenry, to interdict, investigate, right, arrest and charge the perpetrators of criminal activity, bring them before the courts so that the court system provides the punishment. That's what it's supposed to be, but that's not what we are doing. Again, you know, I am one of those Jamaicans who, you know, breathe a sigh of relief that we are seeing a drop in the murder rates. But if this is the way it has to be done, then something is wrong, right? Because executing somebody who you suspect as being involved in a criminal activity doesn't solve the crime, the business of, or the problem of criminality. All it does is that it pushes it down the road, because at some point, some member of that victim's family, right, the person who is a victim of that kind of police violence, is going to come back and haunt us. We can do better. And so to talk about, according to the police commissioner, there is a huge database necessary for the maintenance of and management of the information that will be culled from the cameras. Because once the police comes in off the road, they would have to hand over the body camera, and the information gets downloaded into a database which is centrally managed. And so his argument is that the police don't have the bandwidth or the space, the data holding capabilities to manage that volume of information. Well, guess what, Mr. Commissioner? It's bullshit you're talking, right? Because the life of every single police, every single citizen of the country, even if they are suspects, right, is far more valuable than the cost of managing and maintaining a database of information. If you choose to go down this road, that is the price that you're going to have to pay, right? Because the perception of a country that is operating in a way that is just, right? The perception is important. And in a majority of instances, people's perceptions becomes their own reality. The reality of a lot of Jamaicans is that the worst thing you can, I mean, and you know, I spoke about this earlier this year, where when one youngster was in a yard with a couple of other youngsters, right in the same Walton Park Road area there, and the police go into the yard and them kill 5 people, right? And only one of the person who was a victim was actually somebody that had run afoul of the law. The other 4 people were 4 innocent young men. Now, when I was growing up as a little young boy, I used to have some youth who I used to par with too. And the same way we all would have sit down in the mango tree or the breadfruit tree and we run a little boat and thing. And the same way the police could have come in at the yard and kill half the whole of it, right? If we give succor to this kind of activity, I would not have been here, right? And this is what has been happening in Jamaica for the better part of all of this year, right? Because these guys, one of the things that we're supposed to be auditing, you know, because there are 230 young men killed by the police. And so it's not, the police force have must about 15 or 16,000 members. But it's only, I think it's a squad of about 30 people who are involved in this kind of activity, right? There's a squad of police that go out and whatever, right? And so that police squad needs to be audited, because in that squad there are murderers in that squad, people who are going out there and wantonly killing young Jamaican young men, and them doing it to put a stroke on them gun to say how much body them liquid. No different from the criminals, right? And this is a dangerous position that we find ourselves in, because by the same token, a man, our next man, a check him girl, and him besides a boy, he can't deal with that. So him just go brush with the man and say, I'm a criminal too. Right? At Jamaica we live, and we cannot pretend that these situations are far-fetched. Right? If I can imagine it, I'm telling you, it is real. They need to take those policemen who are involved in these killings. Because if you do the ballistics, you can know which gunfire shot them. Right? Every time that a body turn up, right, as a result of police activity, if you audit, do the postmortem, take the bullets, carry them, go and do ballistics check. All of them, boy, you need to check them gun. And then you're gonna be shocked to see that some of these policemen have double digits killing on them hand. Now, anybody who kill 1, 2, or 3 people, and then it becomes multiples of killing, is a problem, because that person is mad. You have to be of a certain mental defect to be willing to eliminate a life or lives with that kind of impunity, and then you go in bed and sleep. Something wrong, right? And this is something that as a country we need to raise voices. Police cannot be the executioner. I am sorry. We have to find a different way. We have to find a different way. I see the police have all kind of fancy and all kind of PR campaign and all kind of thing. That don't mean jack shit when you are eliminating poor people, black people picnic. Because them now go for Cherry Gardens and them places go look for some of the biggest criminal them dress up in a fancy at daytime. You know. It's poor people picnic them are killed. And I'm not saying that some of them youth are not involved in a criminal activity, you know, but we have to provide options as a country. Think about it. Think about it. Right? Let me get here on the feedback. What do you think over meeting? But me believe that this is a serious, it's a very grave situation, position that we are finding ourselves in. And so now the fact that the police high command is now coming out and agreeing with the public's view, my view, because a long time I said this, right? We need, I'm not saying that people are not stupid enough to take on the police, but we need the body cam footage. So now them say them order 1,000. Well, you remember say you have about 15, 16,000 police. So technically, you need at a minimum, you need about 10,000 body cameras. 10,000. Because police work on shift. You have, when one shift done, you have a next set of man who come in and things. So you don't need 16,000 camera, but you need at a minimum, you need about 10 or 12,000 camera. So the shifting can roll over, right? And we need for that if police not turn on the camera, you go to prison, right? We have to find a way, right? Let me hear on the thing about what meeting, right? Now, I notice, let me just move to this hospital thing, right? Of course, you know, for the past little more than a year, they've been building this hospital on the grounds of the Cornwall Regional Hospital. It's a children's hospital for some, you know, with a 200-bed facility, right? And we noticed that right in the middle of the election, week before last, the worker them went off on strike. You had some 50 Chinese. You know, can you imagine that Jamaica have Chinese down at Jamaica work in a construction to the point where they all go on strike. Something that them couldn't do in China, right? And there was about another 200 Jamaicans. Well, I noticed in today paper, Errol Green, who used to be the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Health and Wellness, is saying that the hospital now finished and the workers who did strike, them pay them off, including the Chinese, right? And that they've laid off the local workers and them sending back some 50 of the Chinese who have nothing to do. Now that we reach a stage where we are bringing Chinese. And that may have to do with the work, the workforce that we have in Jamaica, because we don't train people properly. So we have people who have bad work attitude and so on, which is why I have to bring in the Chinese. But you know, let me correct that. It's a 220-bed hospital. So the hospital was actually a gift of the Chinese government, and the job now is for the government to get the thing up and running. It will cater to babies up to it's a children's hospital, so the peak age is 18 years old. So if you're 18 and under, would be treated at that hospital. Again, a good move, because the only children's hospital we had in Jamaica was the Bustamante Hospital for Children, and that was bursting at the seams. Genuinely believe that you should have at least 4 of these children's hospitals located in different parts of the island. But it's a good move. Question is now, how soon we'll get it up and running. Also must focus some attention on the Cornwall Regional Hospital, where they had budgeted to spend some 5 billion Jamaican dollars to rehabilitate the hospital. So far, they have spent some $23.5 billion. Now, $23 billion would have tell me, say, it would have easier to lick down the old Cornwall Regional Hospital, lick it down back to dirt, right? And start afresh if you ever spend 23 billion. But again, this is Jamaica, and nobody is accountable for anything in Jamaica. So the Ministry of Health, I can just imagine how much people turn multi-millionaire off of this project. Because if you believe that money now run upon some people, some strong money, because how else do you account for a 5-time ballooning, right? The budget for the repair bill for the hospital was $5 billion in it. And so far, you're basically gone 25 billion. 5 times the overrun, right? And nobody is accountable for it. Nobody have to answer. I would have loved to check some of the people at the ministry or who are connected to the ministry and check them bank account, check them life savings from the period when the hospital went up for work to now, and find out and look at where this money is going, because somebody, right, is making a piss pot load of money off this thing, right? These are the instances of corruption. Now, I don't know if there is a lot that we can do to as far as addressing this situation is concerned, right? I don't know, but it is something that we really need to pay some serious attention to, right? The reality is that we are at a point in our existence where nobody is accountable for anything. Nobody is responsible. Nobody is accountable. And so the taxpayers are getting beaten left, right, and center. And nobody now for answer, right? Again, me draw you guys' attention to the fact that we have a situation where some $1.6 billion was allocated for the school bus program. We spent about 300-400 million of that money to buy some old bus, but nobody is talking about what happened to the other $1.2 billion. You know, is everybody's guess as to where we are, where we're coming from. But again, you know, it's Jamaica, and so we really just kind of grab it by the scruff of the neck as to how do we get away from this kind of situation? How do we transform the country from a position where people are going to be answerable to, accountable for the decisions they make and how them utilize the taxpayers' money. Just want to ask that. Anyway, World Championships finish, and Jamaica has done well. Want to congratulate all the medal. Well, first of all, congratulate the entire team that went to Tokyo, and we want to congratulate as well the medalists, right? Of course, Jamaica won gold in the men's 100 meters. Kishian Thompson came second. With Oblique Seville won his first major medal, and it must be a nice feeling that first medal is a gold medal. And Oblique, 24 years old, Calabar young man, produced a brilliant turn of foot, run past the entire field, including Kishian, who had the fastest time in the world, 9.75 seconds, going into the World Championships. And so Oblique basically has managed to stamp his class, to return Jamaica to winning ways. It has been almost 10 years to the date that Jamaican men had won a sprint medal. And so it was a really sweet piece of victory from a Jamaican standpoint when Oblique took the gold, Kishian took the silver, and we finally quieted down Mautamasi, Noah Lyles, who had been the defending champion. So again, congratulations to Jamaica. But what can be said about the Queen herself, Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce? Shelly, who for her, this was her final international event representing Jamaica. Shelly came into track and field all the way back in 2007 when she made the Jamaican team as an alternate on the relays in Osaka, Japan, all the way back 2007. So that's 18 years ago. And she actually finished that World Championship with a silver medal on that. She represented on that relay team, ran a leg. And so for her to finish her career in Tokyo, it was a turning of the page, if you will. In fact, there is, I had done a piece of work here. This is a painting of mine of Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce handing over the baton to young Clayton, and effectively to the Clayton twins, Tia and Tina Clayton, where this was her, to the new generation of female sprinters. So Shelly, of course, would have been just turning 21 when she went to Osaka. And so, to be turning over now to the young guns of the newest generation of sprinters, the Clayton sisters, young Smith, who ran the final leg of the relay. We just want to, big up Shelly. Shelly has been on the receipt of a tremendous amount of accolades. In fact, there was some website who was talking about her getting some contract with Netflix for a series. But I managed to check that out, not Nagosa. But I saw people, internet, so people, concoct all kind of stories when they might try to win likes and so on. But this was another painting of mine reflecting Shelly as she begins her final. This is called the final run, when she started that relay final on Sunday morning or Saturday night and took Jamaica to silver. And we could have won a gold medal here because the legs were good enough to win gold. The United States won the gold medal by 400ths of a second. When you look at the baton exchanges, particularly on the back stretch and the two handovers there, we could have Clayton to Clayton and Clayton to Smith. That took about 500ths of a second off the relay, and with better baton changes, we could have won a second gold medal in this instance. But again, Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce has been a champion, if you will, a champion of no mean order. She has more than demonstrated that capacity, right? Um, Shelly has won a cluster of medals, 10-time gold medalist at the World Championship. She has some 3 um, uh, uh, Olympic medals, individual medals, and gold medals I'm talking about. But a career that is exemplary. The other thing about Shelly that you have to look at is her impact not only on the sport but on Jamaica as a whole. Shelly is an example that every single Jamaican, self included, would want to take a cue from in terms of taking advantage of the opportunities that you are presented with. And so, just want to again use the opportunity, use the moment to big up my Jamaican, um, track and field participants. Not everybody gonna win a medal. Jamaica finished, I think it is, in the top 10 of the medal tables. It's interesting what a single gold medal would have done, because if we had won one of these gold medals again, to the men, we had a baton follow up in the final exchange, and so we lost out on that. But I honestly thought we were good for at least 3 gold medals, and that would have put us at least top 3. United States dominant, but the United States have almost 110 times the population where we have. So on a per capita basis, it tells you how well we have done, and we just want to big up. I also want to just use the opportunity to say to the powers that be, now that we have a new administration coming in, I know Babsy Grange is the Minister of Sports, Gender, and all kind of culture and all that sort of thing. And Babsy has served the country very, very well. But we think we're at a different point now in our existence, where maybe at time Babsy can take time and, bid us our leave. Maybe she can be retained as a consultant, if you will, because she have a piss pot load of experience. But I just genuinely feel that sports, culture, music, these are some significant subject areas for us as a country. And I would believe that it is going to be in our best interest as a country that we outfit this ministry with a younger thinking personnel, right? A minister who is more on the ground, who understand the technology, understand the speed with which this industry, this body of industry operates. I think Babsy has served very, very well, and I'm of the view that maybe it's a good time now that Babsy identify a successor. Babsy should be pushing into her 80s. Not that I said she thing, but we have a whole heap of younger people now, and I think we have to give the young people them the opportunity to shine. Because if we don't do that, what we are losing is the opportunities that are there for us to build on culture as a subject area, right? The Jamaican culture is a significant part of what defines who we are. And so I am of the view that maybe the time has come for us to move in this kind of direction, right? And as we talk about culture, just wanna, if you're living anywhere here in South Florida, just a reminder that of my upcoming art exhibition and artistic legacy, and this is going to be held at the Holiday Inn Express in Plantation on 1701 North University Drive. And this is on Saturday, October 18th. And, you know, I have a full slate of work, a huge body of work that I'm presenting at this exhibition. It is going to be just a little bit shy 2 months from Christmas, a good opportunity to grab yourself, treat yourself to some nice pieces of work. And these are Jamaican influenced artwork that looks at Jamaican subject. You will notice the woman in white at the back and these market women in the background here. Two of the pieces that should be on that show. And if you're in New York, I am heading to New York in November with a follow-up exhibition as well. So again, let's support the culture, support you know, the art, and I'm also going to invite you to check out my website and pick up my new book, Unbroken, Sheila 2.0, that is available on the website. There is also a couple of other books, Sheila, the Girl from the Lane, and of course, Top Rankings. Yes, I'm a man of multifaceted, if you will. I'm going to encourage you to support the culture. Check out the website at yardmedia.com. And just for those of you who may not be familiar with the spelling, it's YAAWD, yardmedia.com, and check it out. All right, that's all we have for today. I always want to just say thanks to you guys, my listeners, subscribers. If you're joining us for the first time, we do this at least 3 times a week. And check us out on a Sunday for the Reggae Chronicles program, which looks at Jamaican music from a historical standpoint from 2 to 4 o'clock Eastern daylight saving time. It's 1 o'clock till 3 o'clock in Jamaica time. And wherever you are, stay warm, stay safe, and thanks for joining. We know you have options, we know you spend your time. Very, very appreciative of you taking the time out to join me this afternoon. And again, you know, feel free to share your thoughts. Check out my website, and again, we look forward to next time you join us. Big respect.